The snow fell in thick, heavy flakes outside Murphy's Corner Cafe, coating the Chicago streets in a blanket of white that muffled the usual city noise. It was well past closing time, but Maria Gonzalez hadn't locked the door yet. Something about the storm made her hesitate. Nights like this, people needed shelter. She was counting the day's meager earnings when she spotted him through the frost-covered window. A young boy, maybe 10 years old, huddled against the brick wall of the alley next to her cafe. His thin jacket was no match for the bitter February wind, and his small frame shook with each gust. Mariah didn't think twice. She grabbed her coat and stepped into the storm. "Hey there, sweetheart," she called out in her warm, accented voice, approaching slowly so she wouldn't startle him. "What are you doing out here alone?" The boy looked up with startling green eyes, his dark hair dusted with snow. "Waiting for my mom," he said through chattering teeth. "She said she'd pick me up after her meeting." Maria glanced down the empty street. No cars, no people. Just the howling wind and the boy's labored breathing. "How long have you been waiting?" He shrugged, pulling his thin jacket tighter. "A while." Maria's heart clenched. She'd seen too many kids forgotten, abandoned, left to fend for themselves in this unforgiving city. "Come inside, mijo. You'll freeze out here." The boy hesitated. "But what if she comes and I'm not here?" "We'll watch for her through the window," Maria assured him. "Come on." She gently guided him into the warm cafe, the bells above the door chiming softly. The familiar sense of coffee and fresh bread seemed to wrap around them like a hug. Maria led him to a booth near the front window and wrapped a clean dish towel around his shoulders. "I'm Maria," she said, crouching to meet his eyes. "What's your name?" "Alex," he replied, his teeth still chattering. "Well, Alex, you look like you could use some hot chocolate and maybe a sandwich. Sound good?" His eyes widened. "I don't have any money." Maria smiled, the same smile she'd given her own children when they were scared. "Did I ask for money?" "No, I didn't. This one's on the house." She bustled to the kitchen, warming milk for hot chocolate and preparing her grandmother's recipe for chicken soup, the kind that could heal both body and soul. When she returned, Alex was staring out the window, his small hands pressed against the glass. "Still no sign of her," he whispered. Maria set the steaming bowl in front of her, along with fresh bread and the hot chocolate topped with whipped cream. "Eat first, worry later. That's what my abuela used to tell me." Alex took his first spoonful and closed his eyes, savoring the warmth. "This is incredible," he breathed. "Secret ingredient," Maria winked. "Love." What Mariah didn't know was that across the street, behind the tinted windows of a sleek silver Mercedes, someone was watching every moment unfold. James Mitchell sat in his car, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. At 42, he was the founder and CEO of Mitchell Tech Solutions, a company worth hundreds of millions. He was known for his sharp business acumen, his ruthless efficiency, and his complete inability to trust anyone's motives. But right now, he was just a father who had gotten caught in an emergency board meeting that ran 3 hours late, watching a stranger feed his son without expecting anything in return. Alex was his son, brilliant, kind, and confined to frequent hospital visits due to a chronic lung condition that made Chicago winters particularly brutal. James had called ahead, asking Alex to wait at the cafe where they always met, promising he'd be there soon. He never expected this. He pulled out his phone and dialed his assistant. "Catherine, I need you to do something for me." "Of course, Mr. Mitchell. What do you need? Find out everything you can about the woman who owns Murphy's Corner Cafe. Her name is Maria something. I need her full background by tomorrow morning. There was a pause. Sir, is everything all right? James watched as Maria sat across from Alex, laughing at something the boy had said, treating him like he was her own grandson. Just do it, Catherine. Inside the cafe, Alex was telling Maria about his school project on renewable energy, his eyes bright with excitement as he described solar panels and wind turbines. Maria listened intently, asking questions and encouraging his enthusiasm. You're going to change the world someday, Alex, she said, refilling his hot chocolate. You really think so? I know so. Smart kids like you, they grow up to do amazing things. The door chimed, and a woman in an expensive coat entered, shaking snow from her umbrella. She was tall, blonde, and carried herself with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. Alex, she called out. Time to go, buddy. Alex looked up, confused. But I'm waiting for my mom. The woman, Catherine, smiled smoothly. Change of plans. She sent me to get you. Maria's instincts flared. She'd raised 3 children and worked in this neighborhood long enough to recognize when something wasn't right. She studied the woman carefully. And you are? Maria asked, standing. Family friend, Catherine replied, her smile never wavering. Come on, Alex. We need to go. But Alex shrank back in his seat. I don't know you. Maria stepped closer to the boy, her protective instincts in full force. Alex, do you want to go with her? He shook his head slightly, and that was all Maria needed to see. I think you should wait for your mom, Maria said firmly, looking at Catherine. She'll be here soon, I'm sure. Catherine's smile faltered for just a moment. Look, I understand your concern, but nothing, Maria interrupted. The boy says he doesn't know you, and he wants to wait for his mother. That's what we'll do. The tension in the room was palpable. Catherine glanced toward the window, then back at Maria. After a moment, she sighed. Actually, you're right. His father sent me, not his mother. James Mitchell. He's stuck in a meeting and asked me to pick up Alex. Maria relaxed slightly but didn't move from Alex's side. Is that true, mijo? Alex nodded. My dad's always in meetings. But he looked at Catherine uncertainly. She's never picked me up before. Catherine pulled out her phone, dialing quickly. James? Yes, I'm at the cafe. There's been a bit of confusion. Okay, I'll put you on speaker. A deep voice filled the cafe. Alex? It's Dad. I'm sorry I'm so late, buddy. Catherine is going to bring you home, okay? Alex's face lit up with relief. Dad. Okay. Maria watched the exchange, her maternal instincts still on high alert. But she stepped back as Alex gathered his things. Thank you, Maria, he said, giving her a spontaneous hug. That was the best soup ever. Maria hugged him back, slipping a chocolate chip cookie into his pocket. You take care of yourself, mijo. And remember what I said. You're going to do great things. As Catherine led Alex toward the door, she paused and looked back at Maria. Thank you, she said quietly, for taking care of him. Maria nodded, watching as they disappeared into the storm. The next morning, Maria was preparing for the breakfast rush when an expensive black car pulled up outside her cafe. A tall man in a tailored coat stepped out, and even through the window, Maria could see the power in his stride, the way he commanded attention without trying. He entered the cafe, and Maria immediately recognized the voice from the phone call. This was James Mitchell, Alex's father. Ms. Gonzalez, he said, extending his hand. I'm James Mitchell, Alex's father. Maria wiped her hands on her apron and shook his hand. How is Alex? Is he feeling better? Something in James's expression softened. He hasn't stopped talking about you, about the soup, the hot chocolate, the way you made him feel safe. Maria smiled. He's a good boy, very smart. James nodded, then reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. I wanted to thank you properly. Maria eyed the envelope suspiciously. I don't want your money, Mr. Mitchell. It's not charity, James said quickly. It's a job offer. Maria blinked. Excuse me? I own a company, Mitchell Tech Solutions. I need someone to head our community outreach program, someone who understands people, who cares about making a real difference. He set the envelope on the counter. Someone like you. Maria laughed, but not unkindly. Mr. Mitchell, I appreciate the gesture, but I run a cafe. I don't know anything about tech companies. You know about people, James replied. You saw a child in need and you helped him, no questions asked. That's exactly what I need. Someone who sees people, not profit margins. Maria picked up the envelope, feeling its weight. Why me? James was quiet for a moment, staring out at the street where his son had been stranded the night before. Because most people would have called the police or social services. You gave him soup and made him feel like he mattered. In my world, that's rarer than you might think. Maria studied his face, seeing past the expensive suit to the father who'd been genuinely grateful. And what exactly would I be doing at this company of yours? Helping us build programs that actually help communities instead of just looking good on paper. Setting up scholarships, job training, mentorship programs, things that matter. Maria was quiet for a long moment, then smiled. I'll think about it. James nodded. That's all I ask. 6 months later, Maria stood in the gleaming conference room of Mitchell Tech Solutions, facing a room full of executives who'd initially questioned her hiring. She'd just presented her proposal for the Mitchell Gonzalez Community Initiative, a comprehensive program that would provide job training, educational scholarships, and small business loans to underserved communities throughout Chicago. The numbers speak for themselves, she said, clicking to the final slide of her presentation. When we invest in communities, everyone benefits. Property values rise, crime decreases, and we create a workforce that's loyal and skilled. The room was silent for a moment. Then the board members began nodding, asking detailed questions about implementation and budget allocations. After the meeting, James approached her in the hallway. Outstanding work, Maria. The board is impressed. Maria grinned. They should be. We're going to change this city, one community at a time. Speaking of change, James said, Alex has something for you. As if on cue, Alex appeared around the corner, walking steadily and breathing easily. His condition had improved dramatically over the past months. He was carrying a wrapped package. Maria, I made this for you in art class, he said, handing her the gift. Inside was a hand-painted picture of Murphy's Corner Cafe, with 2 figures visible through the window, a woman and a boy sharing a meal. At the bottom, in careful child's handwriting, it read, "The night kindness changed everything." Maria felt tears prick her eyes. It's beautiful, mijo. Dad says you're going to help lots of kids now, not just me. Maria looked at James, who nodded. The first community center breaks ground next month. We're calling it the Murphy's Corner Community Center. After my cafe? After the place where kindness lives, Alex said solemnly. 2 years later, Maria stood at the podium of the newly opened community center, looking out at a crowd of families, children, and local business owners. The center offered after-school programs, job training, small business support, and a cafe, run by local entrepreneurs, that served Maria's grandmother's soup recipe. "Sometimes," she said into the microphone, "the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest changes. A warm meal, a safe space, someone who sees you and believes in you. These things matter more than we know." In the front row, Alex sat with his father, both of them beaming with pride. James had funded the center, but it was Maria's vision that had brought it to life. After the ceremony, as families explored the new facility and children played in the bright, safe spaces, James approached Maria. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it." Maria watched a group of teenagers working with volunteer tutors, saw parents attending financial literacy classes, witnessed small business owners networking in the cafe. "We did it," she corrected. "All of us." Alex ran up to them, breathless with excitement. "Maria, did you see the art room and the computer lab? And they have your soup in the cafe." Maria laughed, ruffling his hair. "I saw, mijo. What do you think?" "I think," Alex said seriously, "that one bowl of soup can change the world." James smiled, watching his son, healthy, happy, and wise beyond his years. "You know what, buddy? I think you're right." As the sun set over Chicago, casting a golden glow through the windows of the Murphy's Corner Community Center, Maria reflected on the journey that had brought them here. It had started with a simple choice on a snowy night: to see a child in need and respond with kindness. Now, that single act of compassion had grown into something bigger than she'd ever imagined. A thriving community center. Dozens of families lifted out of poverty, young people given opportunities they'd never had before. The boy who'd once shivered in the snow was now a confident teenager, planning to study environmental engineering in college. The businessman who'd once measured success only in profit margins now measured it in lives changed. And Maria, who'd started as a cafe owner with a big heart, had become a community leader whose impact would be felt for generations. Sometimes the most powerful transformations begin with the simplest acts of human kindness. Sometimes all it takes is someone willing to open their door, share their warmth, and see the potential in every person they meet. The night that had started with a bowl of soup had indeed changed everything. Not just for Alex and James, but for an entire community that now had hope, opportunity, and the unshakable knowledge that someone believed in them. In a world that often feels cold and indifferent, Maria's story reminds us that kindness is never wasted. Compassion is never small. And sometimes the person who needs our help the most might just be the one who changes our life.